Hello everyone, welcome back to the another session in Principles of Programming Languages. Now today we'll be going to talk about next concept of second unit, so which is names, variables and concept of binding. Now let's get started. So basically what is a name? Name is string of characters. It will be used in a program as an entity. So basically this is also called as an identifier simply. So identifier and names both are interchangeable things. Now coming to the design issues, there are two design issues. The one is, are names or case sensitive? Are the special words of the language reserved words or keywords? Now let's see about few examples concerned to the major programming languages. Now coming to the Fortran 95 plus language, the version number, it allows up to 31 characters in its names, and C99 has no length limitation on its internal names, but the significance characters are only 63 characters, and external names in C99 are restricted to 31 characters, and it is also having no length, but the significance is something 63 and 31. And names in Java, C#, and Ada have no length limit. All the characters in them are significant. There is no rule something what is there in C. There is no rule. And C++ does not specify any length limit. So C++ also no length limit, no significance. So now coming to the way how you will create a name is, names in most programming languages have the same form. A letter followed by a string consisting of letters or digits and underscore characters, something like underscore ABC, it's a valid name. And if you write ABC123, it's a valid name. So mostly programming languages will use this kind of things. And coming to C-based programming languages, it has to a large extent been replaced by the so-called camel notation, in which all of the words is multiple word name except the first are capitalized. That means I can write something like this, my stack. So this notation is called as what? Camel notation. And all variable names in PHP must begin with a dollar sign, that we were seen, right? Dollar sign. Even not only in PHP but also in Perl. PHP will find more similarities. In these languages we'll use some dollar or some symbol, something like that we'll use. Let's take the example of Perl. We were seen many examples in the case of data types. Arrays will begin with @ a particular index will begin with dollar, associative array will begin with percentile. All the names of these programming languages, the identifier, if I wanted to take something in the program, that will begin with these special kind of characters. Even in Ruby, special characters at the beginning of variable name. So you have to keep in mind these three special languages, because in these languages names and variables will get created with the some symbols. Fine. So and the next is about special words. So what are special words? Special words in a programming language are used to make programs more readable and naming actions to be performed. So a keyword is word of a programming language that is special only in certain contexts. So to increase readability, we'll use keywords actually. So if you take an example in the case of Fortran uses the keywords in different way. Let's see. If the word integer is followed by an assignment operator, it is considered a variable name is integer which hold the value of 4. If you can see integer apple, apple. Now compiler will understand that apple is a name of the identifier or name of the variable which is being created. So here if you find integer, it is a variable name. If you find here integer, it is a variable. Now these kind of things we'll see. And not only this kind of things, we have also reserved word. Reserved word is what? Basically, reserved word is a special word of program Reserved word is a special word of programming language that can be used as a name. Correct? Now, keywords will not be used as a name. That exclusively Fortran we were seeing. But in other languages, keywords are not being used as a name of the variable. If a keyword is there in C, something like integer is a keyword. You can't use this integer as a variable name in the C-based languages. Only Fortran allows the user to do it. Coming to the Fortran you have a special case that reserved words also, let's say integer is a reserved word. Now Fortran will take, if I write something like this, real is a data type, integer is a data type as far as Fortran is considered. Now when I write like this, now Fortran compiler will take in a different way that these statements declare the program variable real to be of integer type. Okay, and the variable integer to be of real type. If I write something like this, real and integer, so in both the cases it understands that it is a variable and it is a data type where we have to allocate the memory. So this is what we do have in that case. Now we'll see about the variables. Variable is what? It's a memory location, or else you can say that something like this: a program variable is an abstraction of a computer memory cell. When you create a variable in any of the programming language, now so int a means one abstraction of memory cell will get created. Now after that we'll be holding some value inside of it. As soon as you do the statement, you write this statement in the program. So this is what abstraction memory cell will get existed. So basically a variable can be characterized into 6 tuple attributes. It is important. This question is important. Concern to end semester examinations. So a variable can be characterized as a 6 tuple attributes. One is name, address, value, type, lifetime and scope. Now let's talk about this. Name in the sense string of characters. I can write A or ABC or $ABC or underscore ABC. All these are valid. Concern to major programming languages. Address is nothing but, so basically we'll write address. The address of a variable is the machine memory address with which it is associated. So the address of a variable is sometimes called as L value, because the address is what is required when the name of a variable appears in the left side of an assignment. We'll write something like this, right? I mean ampersand A. So this is what your address. Now coming to the value. So value is what? The value of a variable is the content of the memory cell. When you create this kind of things, we are talking address means about this. We are talking value means about this. So finally the value of a variable is the content of a memory cell. So that is what value. So basically this value is also called as what? R value. That means because it is what is required when the name of the variable appears in the right side of an assignment statement. A is equal to 5, right side. That is the value, correct? So coming to the type in the sense, the type of a variable determines the range of values the variable can store. So that is what type. Now, so coming to the lifetime and scope, these are what two things what you can understand with the concept of different types of variables. But still I'll tell you what is scope and lifetime. Let's say scope is what? The area where the variable is getting initialized. The area where the variable is getting initialized. Lifetime is what? The time period till what you can use that variable in the program. So these are what the 6 tuple attributes. Now coming to the variable, types of variables. Those are 4 different types of variables: static variable, stack dynamic variable, explicit heap dynamic, implicit heap dynamic. Let's understand about this. It is also important question. Earlier the question 6 tuple attributes is important for short question, and this is for long question. Many times it came in the final examination. Now the static variable is what? Static variables are those that are bound to memory cells before program execution. I'll write an example over here. Int a is equal to 10. So before we execute the program, value of A is containing 10. Correct? I mean, variable of A is containing value of 10. Now, the definition of static variable is what? Static variables are those that are bound to memory cells before program execution. Program execution begins and remain bound to those same memory cells until program execution terminates, or else until we delete the memory dynamically if it is allocated. But as far as it is static variables is concerned, until program terminates, the memory cell is bounded to store that particular value. So here we have an advantage. The advantage is what? Efficiency. Because all addressing of static variables can be direct addressing. We also have a drawback. The drawback is what? One disadvantage of static binding to storage is reduced flexibility. In particular, a language that has only static variables cannot support recursive subprograms. Now, the second category is what? Stack dynamic variables are those whose storage bindings are created when their declaration statements are elaborated. Example, we'll write here only int a. Now, so the value of this will be given at dynamically, right? So this is what? When the value of variable is given at dynamically or at runtime, after the compile time, after the elaboration time, we say it is dynamic variable, stack dynamic variables. And the next category of variables are explicit heap dynamic. The meaning of this is, these are what? The nameless or abstract memory cells that are allocated and deallocated by explicit runtime instructions written by the programmer. And we also have the last category of variables, which is implicit heap dynamic variables. These are bounded to heap storage only when they are assigned values. In fact, all their attributes are bound every time they are assigned. So this is what we were discussed in the concept of pointer and return types. Now, so this is about your names, variables, and concept of binding. We also have some concept of binding in the content. So the meaning of concept of binding is what? So basically, we have to take some variable value which is binding to the variable. Correct? Now, I'll take an example and I'll show you how binding basically happens to the attribute or to the variable. So, if I write A is equal to some 10. Now, so the binding is what? Is an association between an attribute and an entity. This entity can be a value, this entity can be an operation, this entity can be a symbol also. And the binding at which time it takes place is called as binding time. So basically, binding times are prominent concepts in the semantics of programming languages, and binding can naturally happen at language design time, language implementation time, compile time, and load time, link time, or else run time. So here in these cases, binding will get happened. So this is what the concept of binding. It's for short question. So what is binding, or the concept of binding is for short question and answer. And so basically this bindings are of two types: static type binding and dynamic type binding. Static type binding and dynamic type binding. Again, static type binding are explicit declaration, implicit declaration. Now let's say, what is explicit declaration? Explicit declaration is a statement in a program that lists variable names and specifies that they are particular type. Implicit is what? It means an associating variables with the types through default conventions rather than the declaration statements. So, and we also have the other binding, which is dynamic type binding. So, dynamic type binding is what? With dynamic type binding, the type of a variable is not specified by a declaration statement. So instead, the variable is bound to a type when it is assigned a value in an assignment statement. So this is about the complete detailed information about names, variables, types of variables, concept of binding. Right? Thank you all.